Just out of curiosity, like a show of hands, who can remember exactly when they met Jason? Kind of just, all right, it's a lot of people. Um, that's amazing. I don't quite remember when I met Jason. I kind of remember the era. Um, and he was just there. And at first I asked him, are you from Hollister? Any Hollister people here? Okay, cool. How about Chico people? Anybody from Chico? All right, there we go. Um, and he was just kind of that ubiquitous friend. And when I met him, it seemed that he already knew everyone. He already knew all of my friends. And he was just such a good friend at keeping in touch with people. And so throughout the years, it's been a long time, um, we've all gotten those phone calls from Jason. And even if you don't answer, he's going to call back, and he's going to call back. And he always checks in with you. And I tell people that, Jason is the world heavyweight champion friend of keeping in touch and checking in with you. And we're all going to miss that. But then also when you got to get together with Jason, you wanted to mix it up with him right away, but he had to give you progress reports about how good he was checking in with his friends and his family. And man, it's Chris Grimm. It's good to finally meet you because I got so many progress reports about how do you guys not know each other? And Jason would take those road trips and he would visit everyone and he would tell us how Grayson's doing, how the Harrises are doing, and everybody. I mean, you guys moved to Mexico, and he keeps in touch with you guys. So it's an honor to be up here and celebrate Jason's life. This is a packed room. We kind of joked about maybe we should get Petco Park, and Jason's the kind of guy who could probably fill it, or do a tour like a rock star and hit every city and have a party in each town. I'm sorry, I just want to check in with my notes here. So that's really all I have to say without. So thank you all for coming on behalf of the family and all the friends. This is exactly what Jason would have wanted: some music, and to celebrate, and to tell stories, and to be here to give each other hugs. Probably do a lot of crying today, and that's great. That's okay. It's a part of life. So enjoy the day. Thanks for being here, and we're going to start off with Tom Neely and Clay coming on up here and starting us off. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. First timer here. Sorry about that.
So my daughter asked me, "Do you want to say something?" And the answer was no. But I got to do that. So, in case you don't know, we've got people from all over the freaking country. We have people that came from North Carolina, Texas, Washington State, Wyoming, Hawaii, to celebrate this day. And thank you so much. And people have done amazing things for my family. I can't even name everything. People coming forward, and we get cards and letters all the time. We get flowers. We get gifts in the mail. We get mass cards for our son, and it's overwhelming, but it's good. So what I'd like to do is kind of start the way Brian did. He asked you if you remember meeting him. I want you to remember one of the happiest moments, and just think about it for a minute. One of the happiest moments you spent with him. and take everything that came with that memory that was wrapped in that brain and that memory, what it smelled like, what it looked like, what it felt like, where you were, all those things. Kind of lock it in for today and keep that as the theme in your mind. And my guess is, for some of you, you remember being on the beach. A whole bunch of you remember being at some sort of a music event someplace. Another bunch of you, you were on a bus on a wine tour. For sure, right? Some are, and some of you, one of us most favorite hangouts. But there was always laughter. There was always music. There was singing. All those things were going on. And you all had a different image of what it was, except one. I think you all saw the same smile. He always had a smile. A winning smile. My God. So you take this memory and you're going to hang on to it for the day. And I'm going to share my memory with you. I don't care how old he was. That was my image. Always was, always will be. And the reason I'm showing you this picture is that something happened around this time, and I wasn't aware of it until recently when I started thinking back. But he wasn't even in school yet, right? And this is kind of when the Jason that you met started to become that guy. We lived out behind J. Partridge School. And on the corner of our lot, we had a kind of an ugly old fruitless mulberry tree. They aren't really pretty trees, but they're great climbing trees. So I nailed a few wooden steps on that tree because, God, he loved to climb. I mean, if there was any place he could get into, that's what he wanted to do. So he'd climb up in that tree, and he could walk out on branches not much bigger around than my thumb because he was a little guy, fearless. But then we started to notice he just didn't go out to climb the tree to climb the tree. That wasn't the goal. He kind of had the neighborhood figured out. He knew patterns. He knew when school was out. He knew when kids were on their way to school. He knew who was playing when they were playing and where. And that was his point. When he knew they were there, he was in the tree. And as the kids walked by, they all got fascinated by him because he was so damn friendly. And they all started loving him. Didn't make any difference how old they were. Before he even started Partridge School, most of the kids in that school knew the kid in the tree across the street. And there was, I actually have notes in case I forget, but there was a kid down the street. His name was Kenny. And Jason's 4 or 5. Kenny's 10. And he's at least twice as big as Jason. But he would stop, see the kid in the tree, and they'd start talking. And they became friends. Jason's got a birthday coming up. I think it's his fifth or sixth, something like that. Jason goes to Mom and says, well, put Kenny on the list. Mom doesn't know what to do because she doesn't want to hurt his feelings, but she's thinking, that's not going to work, you know. And here all the little tiny kids show up to this birthday party out. I think we were at Caper Acres or something like that. And along comes this big lunk of a kid who's twice as big as everybody else, toting a gift, shows up for the birthday party. And that's kind of why I'm telling you the story. It was like he figured it out. He figured out how to make friends when he was that young, and he held on to that tighter than any other thing, I think, in his life, other than a few that I will share with you. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead. I'll skip ahead a little bit because I'm not going to stay when he was a child. Nothing's sweet forever, believe me. But as he grew older, he had been raised Catholic. He received all the sacraments, went to church with us every Sunday. He gets in college, after high school, gets in college, and like so many other people, kind of fell away. Probably fell pretty hard, but wasn't going to church anymore. And I'll be honest, those are hard times for me. I'm worried. What if he lost his faith? But then, I started looking around at the world and saying, man, maybe I'm looking at the wrong picture. Where did I ever get hooked into that idea that unless he showed up at church on Sunday, he wasn't good as the guy next to him or the guy that went twice a week? I can give you a lot of examples, man, that go both ways. And maybe church wasn't the issue for him. Maybe the issue was, as it should be, what kind of person he was. I've learned a lot about my son from you. The posts that have come online, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't see all that wonderful stuff. I kind of had a feeling, but I didn't see it. So I didn't know how much love there was going out there. But then I thought, again, okay, he's not going to church. He's doing okay, so what is he about? Who is he inside? And my son had no malice in his heart from the time he was a little kid to the time he was an adult. He was motivated by things like greed, jealousy, resentment, anger. They had absolutely no place in his life. He was just different in that regard. And after reading your post and the family talking line, I'm realizing I'm seeing four principles that he just lived his life by. And the first one was family. He believed in family. Family was the most important thing to him. Every aspect is family. Mom, sisters, cousins, uncles. He was always curious about what all of them were doing, and he cared about every single one of them. But he cared mostly about his family. And his number one, this is going to burst a few bubbles in the room, as I've heard people say it, I was his best friend. His best friend and his best love and his best everything was his daughter. So Lauren was his life. That was the key thing for him. That was the key value. That was what he held on to. And that is what he spent his life making sure. I may be doing these things over here, but that gal comes first. And he always made sure that Janine and Lauren had everything that they needed. Family. Thing number 2, friendship. And here it is. And this is just a piece of it. God, I don't know how he got so, zoned into understanding that concept of friendship. But to him, even when you met him and he was 30, even when you met him when he was 40, you got to remember that little kid in the tree, because that part never ever left. He was always the little kid in the tree. He just figured out a different way to make friends with you. It may have been from a bus seat, okay? But that's what he did with his friendships, and he held them all dear. So this one's huge, and for me, very embarrassing. I've never learned it. My family and I now are talking a lot about what went wrong. What did we miss out? Because he sure got it. Is forgiveness. My son could not hold a grudge. He could not stay mad at anybody. He very rarely got angry at things. He just thought if wasn't getting along with someone, he'd just keep trying, and eventually things would get better for him. And because of that forgiveness, we now as a family take a close look at our lives and saying it's a piece that we need to really try and mend right now, because I have never known another person in my life that was as forgiving as my son. And then the last one, the fourth key belief, the fourth principle, right, is that he just loved everybody. And some people say, "Well, I love you, dude." It's always, "Hey, you're my love." It wasn't that way for him. For some reason, this had a profound impact on him at some point in his life, that he decided that love was close to the number one thing. And that's what it became for him. If he came up to you and your guy, and if he said, "I love you," and you thought, "Oh God, please don't say that," you got to understand, he really loved you. I mean, Brian was saying it. He knows what was going on in every single one of your lives, all the time, and he was telling people about it. So on and so forth. They're doing great right now, and such happened. They moved here, and we got them all situated, and they're happy, and their daughters. And then for the ones that were sad, he suffered with them. He couldn't stand to see anybody hurt. In fact, sometimes I would say to him, "You and I need to have a serious conversation." He would get in the car and leave town. There is no way that he was going to have a sadness discussion. He did not want sadness in his life. He wanted joy, happiness, and love, and that's what he got. So I was thinking about him loving people and forgiving people. And even like I said, he wasn't active in the faith anymore in that. Something happened during all those years where he locked the concepts in. He knew what they were. He just didn't think he had to go to church to do them. And I remember, and I'm not going to preach to anybody, but there's a Bible passage in there that talks about forgiveness and how many times do you forgive a person? 3, 5, what's enough? 7? And the response is, no, 70 times 7. In other words, limitless. Well, he got that one nailed down, because I don't care what you ever did or how many times you did it, he forgave you the very next time and was on to the next thing. But the one on love, it really got me. It brought me back to a Bible passage. I'm not a preacher. When I say I'm Catholic, man, I'm not that good. I just happen to be Catholic and I work at it, But I want to read this to you. I'm not going to bother quoting. I hate it when they tell you such and such a book on passage and it's verse to verse. So you're not going to get that. If you need it, look it up afterward. If I had the gift of being able to speak in other languages without learning them, and could speak in every language there is, all of heaven and earth, but did not love others, I'd only be making noise. If I had the gift of prophecy and knew all about what is going to happen in the future, knew everything about everything, but didn't love others, what good would it do? Even if I had the gift of faith so that I could speak to a mountain and make it move, it would still be worth nothing at all without love. Love is patient and kind, never jealous or envious, never boastful or proud, never haughty or selfish or rude. Love does not demand its own way. It is not irritable or touchy. It does not hold grudges and will hardly ever notice when others do it wrong. It is never glad about injustice, but rejoices whenever truth wins out. If you love someone, you will be loyal to him no matter what the cost. You will always believe in him, always expect the best of him, and always stand your ground in defending him. There are three things that remain: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. And even though my son wasn't, practicing the faith in that, I think God's looking down right now and say, man, he touched a lot of lives and he did an awful lot of good. Thank you.
My life actually really came into focus with Jason, not here in Chico, not when we were young, but when we were older. Jason and I both lived in San Diego together, and we had many times in which we crossed paths and got together, played soccer together. And the last time I saw you, you were 1 year old. My gosh. Jason, a person bigger than life. Now, the notes that I have in front of me right now, I promise you, I did not ask Tom what he wrote about, or what he was going to say. But it mirrors it pretty dang close. It probably mirrors it for a lot of us. Let me go back a little bit. My brother Nathan met Jason for the first time when they were 7 years old. Jason was one of the guys that was kind of just always around. Being the fact that Nathan and Chad and I are only roughly 2 years apart, Jason was that other brother kid that was with us. My first memory of Jason, oddly enough, was when Nathan said, hey, my buddy Jason's got a little go-kart. We're going to go tear it up in the orchard. And I went, a go-kart? Yeah, sign me up, I'll go. And at that time, I was big into photography, so I grabbed my camera. We went running out into the orchard. We had this little tiny black go-kart that probably didn't go that fast, and it was probably obnoxiously loud. But we were on the edge of the world. And in fact, that day, because my camera was there, we decided to stunt a little bit, and we built a ramp. So we built this little ramp and took turns going over this ramp. And in fact, we couldn't get high enough for me to get low enough with my camera to get a hero shot. So we ended up digging out a little moat so I could lay in the moat and take a picture. I took a lot of pictures that day, but there's one picture that is the number one most remembered picture that I've ever taken. It happened to be of Jason. Jason hit that jump, hit it perfect. Speed, wheels are spinning, dust was flying back around behind him. Go-kart was slightly tilted over a little bit, almost out of control. Jason had his hands on the wheels with his head pitched forward, and that beautiful Jason grin. It was cocky. It was bold. And he said, I'm in control. That is the perfect meme of the time. that shows who he was, and it set the stage for the next 4 or 5 years to come. I was Jason's youth leader, um, and we went on more adventures than I can even count. There are so many groups of kids that we had the opportunity to go do crazy things that nowadays you might end up getting thrown in jail for. And it definitely probably wasn't socially acceptable. But during those days, it was innocent fun. A lot of our things started with an idea. And that idea quickly progressed into how can we make it better? What's the next logical step to make this even cooler? As a youth leader, I wanted to make sure they kept coming back. So we went bigger and better and bigger and better. My theme was go big or go home, and we lived that. One of the crazy things that we did was instead of just going inner tubing down the slopes of a snowbank, we ended up stealing a box spring mattress off one of the university's porches, nailing a bunch of skis to the bottom of it, and then taking it down the slopes. The kids that showed up with their inner tubes were envious of the fashionable sled that we created. But we couldn't stop there. Every year, every time, it got progressively bigger and better. One year, we ended up procuring some seats that probably were thrown out of a Burger King, and we welded those to the back of the sled, fashioned some brakes on the side so that people riding in the back could probably steer or maybe slow us down, which it didn't. We ended up going all the way up to the top of Mount Lassen when it was closed. We pushed it up to the top, turned around, dug our feet into the front of the sled, jumped on, sledded down, and proceeded to do it a handful of times. Jason was always around us. He was always in the pursuit of crazy things like that. I reached out to my other youth leader at the time, Keith McMahon. He wished he could be here today. But we started talking about what was it that made that time so special. It was about a bunch of young men that really wanted to live life abundantly. My goal was to keep it clean, to give them a chance to explore themselves, to reach out, to be bold, live bold, and do things that we could probably talk about later and brag about today. One of the biggest memories we have is let me put it this way. One night as a youth leader, we had a movie night. We watched the Rambo films, all three of them. That was fun. That quickly turned into, I want to wear camo too. So then we watched Schwarzenegger movies. And well, what can you do after you watch a Schwarzenegger movie? Well, you can go teepeeing. That turned into a life unto itself, where we had maps on our walls with little notation flags of the house that we hit that night, how many rolls of toilet paper they had. And some people work in oils and acrylics. We worked in toilet paper. And in fact, if the people didn't have trees, we found a way to get around that. We used plastic forks and forked their lawn with thousands of plastic forks. We became epically known as, if those guys are getting together, you better watch your house. In fact, one of the nights that we got together, we were doing a fantastic mission. Jason was the type of person that was always engaged with each and every element of what we were doing. He wanted to talk about the planning of what we were doing, the people we were hanging out with, and making sure those people were included. Well, on this particular night, one person could not be included because he happened to not be available that night because he was at the prom of the other high school, Robert Hines. So that night after we got done purchasing our toilet paper in the middle of the night, who sells toilet paper to a bunch of camo kids at 1 o'clock? What are they going to do? Robert Heinz pulls up alongside of us as he was coming home from the prom, and he finished that mission with us. The family asked me to talk about one specific case that was pretty memorable. We also became a target very quickly. There was a bunch of girls that were pretty upset that we TP'd them. So I got all the guys together, Jason, all of our buddies, a lot of people here in this room. And that was the day before security cameras. But I was kind of a video geek, had a VHS video camera, put it out front, mounted it on top of a fanless oscillating fan, ran a direct video link all the way into the place where we were playing video games, and we waited. Cool thing is we played video games, had a great time. As soon as we saw their vehicle drive by, lights out, we all went to our places. We knew exactly what we were going to do. They came into TP. We got them. They scattered. We let most of them go, except for one. But at that point, we didn't think that through clearly. What do you do if you catch one? We'd never been caught like that before, so I hadn't thought that through. So after a little bit of conversation, we ended up duct taping her to the tree out front. Again, you can't get away with that now, but back in the day, that was okay. Now here's the kicker. My parents fully knew everything that we were doing at their house. They fully endorsed it. And in fact, my mother, when she's outside whimpering, oh, by the way, and we can still hear her outside as we had that camera rolling, and it's still recorded somewhere in the attic of my parents' house. We hear her whimpering outside, and my mom goes, we need to check on her. So mom goes outside and said, hey, hon, just want to make sure you're okay. And I'm paraphrasing, I don't know the exact conversation, but I know it went something like this. Mom, hey, hon, I want to make sure you're okay. And, yeah, I'm fine. Where are my friends? Will you untie me? She goes, no, you deserve this. And she walked back in the house. Jason had a zeal for life. I had an image of Jason from that first picture that I took of him. As I said, he lived life full, on the edge, ready to embrace every moment, ready to be the leader, constantly leaning forward with that incredible smile on his face, letting you know that he was in control. I am so blessed to have had the opportunity to spend my life constantly crossing paths with that man. He was an incredible young man. And on top of what Tom said, I just want to share the fact that Jason lived a life that said, I want to know you. I want to know you intimately. I want to make sure that you're okay. I want to check in with you. And unfortunately, I'm guilty of not doing that. I hope that one thing that we can take away from this is, remember what Jason did? Maybe we can find one friend and reach out to them as the example that Jason did before us. Thank you.
Tom and Clay, you guys, that was amazing. I'm speechless, and it's nice to see the origin story of Jason and how he's touched so many people. And in true Jason fashion, we can't have anything without some music. So Tom and Gina are going to come up and perform for us, Stand By Me.
This is Jason's guitar. Jason can't play guitar. But he went to, for those of you who are Southern Cal folks, he went down to one of the concerts at Doheny. You know, they have some pretty awesome events down there. They did one last year, and a lot of groups were there. And I think there was a fundraiser for a Save the Planet type of thing. So they were auctioning off this guitar, which is signed by Chris Cornell. Oh. That meant something to him. So he bid on it, and he bid way too much money. But to him, it wasn't about the money; it was about the cause. And he loved this guitar. He couldn't play it, but all he did was talk about it. Every time he called, you know, he talked about this guitar. So I when I got it, I started checking it out. And for you musicians in the room, this may be an inexpensive guitar, but this was one of the good ones that came off the line. This has got a really nice neck on it, low action, and it's got a real sweet little tone to it. So I think you're going to enjoy listening to it.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see, no, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me? Stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand by me. Darling, stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me?
Just as long as you
stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, just stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me?
Just as long as you stand by
me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear just as long as you stand by me. Just as long as you stand by me.
Our next speaker is Robert Heinz.
All right. So I was the one in the tuxedo doing the toilet papering. I've had the pleasure of knowing Jason for 38 years, and you asked what was one of my first memories. It was actually in your guys' living room when it was my junior year of high school. A bunch of the folks in here were seniors and made the varsity soccer team, and we were talking about the viability of the U.S. in the World Cup. And soccer was really, really, really a big part of Jason's life. Who in here played soccer with Jason? A lot of folks. It brought us together. I think it kept us out of a lot of trouble. It got us into a lot of trouble. And some of my fondest memories were growing up with Butte United and the Chico High soccer team. And Jason cherished those things. And every time we got together, he upped the ante. I remember one memory of riding to an away game, and we had two brothers, Chucky and Dave Rodriguez, and their mom grew peppers. And I don't know if a few of you guys remember this, but they would bring peppers onto the bus, and Jason would walk up the aisle of the bus and hand everybody a pepper. And these things weren't just like your grocery store peppers. They were the kind that took skin off your back, put hair on your back. And the goal was to not drink any water. You couldn't drink any milk. And who was the last man standing? And you know, for me, those are the memories that I remember early on in the days of playing soccer in this town. And it's kept a lot of us together, and it created some amazing memories. And so I know that there's going to be some folks that talk a little bit later about kind of the college and post-college years. And I left to go to the University of Washington, and Jason stayed in town and went to Cal State. It was Hollister, Cal State Hollister, in Chico. And so I know Nick's going to get up and share some of those memories. But one of the things that was neat for me was whenever I came home, his door was open. I met all of these Hollister guys. And I think of Jason, you asked kind of what my lasting memory is. I kind of feel like Jason's a bus driver, and it's a one-way door, and he's just picking friends up the entire life. And the bus just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and he never let anybody off of that bus. And when I got on, Clayt was on, Nate was on, the whole Ratzlaff crew, Mike Tarman, Leonard. There's a lot of early days Chico people that he never let off that bus. And you could pick that phone up and call Jason, and he would be there in an instant. That guy, we talk about love. He's the first person that ever did. He looked me in the eyes and said, "I love you." And it wasn't "love you, man," or any of that. It was like, "I love you." And he was one of the best huggers on the planet. He never let you show up or leave without a Jason hug. And, Jason and I grew apart a little bit. We'd run into each other. But I would say, once he met Janine and had Lauren, we became so much more connected. We had kids about the same time, and for me, it was just amazing to see how proud he was as a dad, the family that he was putting together. And I was in Seattle, he was in San Diego, so I didn't get to do the music festivals. I didn't get to play soccer with him, but I just looked through my text string for last year, and there wasn't a time of more than 2 weeks that went by where I didn't have him checking in. And it was as simple as that. "Hey, checking in. How are you? What's going on?" And everybody in this room has those exact same texts. And there was never resentment about the fact that that guy had 200 plus best friends. It was just amazing. He kept everybody so close to him. And I don't know how he found the time to do it. He had like an extra hour or two in the day to just get through the texts and the phone calls. But everything was so genuine with him. And it was amazing. And you guys he never lost his faith. He was one of the most spiritual friends you could ever have. He had deep, deep, deep connections. And I think one of the things for me, and Nate and I talked about this just before the service, I hope that with him leaving this early, it reminds us all to put pen to paper and write about your friends, write to your friends, tell them how much you love them. Don't let the Jason moments leave your life. Get into the music festivals for Jason, but do it because you're connecting with your friends. Jason was a true connector, and it was just amazing. And you asked what my memory of him will be. I got to spend Thanksgiving with Jason and Janine and Lauren this last year. 1,300-mile road trip. We were at the end of it, and he gets out and he says, "Got a beer?" And we were standing in the street and throwing the ball for the dog, and my memory of Jason is literally that simple. It was just this quality time. We had a wonderful weekend, and the girls flew up, but I just, I'll never forget that. It was the happiest I'd seen him in a very, very long time. It was the healthiest I'd seen him in a really long time. And it was just special. It was really, really, really incredible. So I think, if I can encourage you guys to make lemonade out of the lemons that came of this, like I said, it's hug your friends. Tell them that you love them. Don't let Jason go for any other reason than the fact that he changed all of our lives. And just an amazing, amazing guy. So thank you, guys.
Jason was super proud of that road trip and that effort he made, and we all got the progress reports when he got back. So true, though. And now we're going to have Nick Mariottini.
So apparently I am the Hollister chosen one. And how that came about was, well, Megan called me and asked me if I'd say something, and I didn't hesitate to say yes. And then I said, what the hell am I going to talk about? How do I focus on one thing with this guy? And it turns out that picking that topic was easy once I started reaching out to people and talking to them and trying to remember how I met him, which I'm going to give you my version of how I think I met him. But more importantly, he loved his Hollister people. That's what I would hear from Janine and Megan. She's like, yeah, you got to, tell the Hollister people. And I'm like, okay. I think I underestimated just how many people he knew from Hollister and how well, because the whole response blew me away. But so I'm going to try to follow my notes as best as possible. Jason and I knew each other, it turns out, for about 30 years. We met in 92. I moved to his childhood hometown from my hometown of Hollister. And we were at a party. So my recollection of meeting him is we're at a party thrown by Hollister people in Chico at Klondike Court, the college part of town. And there's this guy comes, scrambling through the party, and he looks like he's trying to get away from somebody. So I, finally get a word with him, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I don't know, this guy wants to kick my butt. I'm like, who wants to beat this guy up? So, turns out they went to high school together, and I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. Like, you were born in Chico. He's the first person I remember being born in Chico, and I just thought that was the coolest thing, because to me, Chico was the place to be. Like, it's just an amazing town. In fact, I've been back here for 20 years now. I bought him his one-man Wolfpack shirt years ago as kind of a joke, because, he kind of envisioned himself that way at times, but he had packs in every corner of America and maybe the world. I remember walking through an airport one time with him. I think we were in Las Vegas, and somebody just yells out, Neely! And he's like, hey! And I'm like, you really know that guy? He's like, oh yeah, that guy's so-and-so from whatever. And, I was like, wow, okay. He's like a celebrity. And I've gone out with, I have a couple friends who are celebrities, and, I've seen them operate. Jason was way more popular, especially in Chico. It was hard to go out with him and get a lot of time, but, he made time for everybody. So as far as Hollister goes, the way that whole connection worked was amazing, putting the pieces together. Like I said, my recollection is meeting him at this party, but Sean actually remembers the day that he became connected to the Hollister crew. So the way it goes is this. Ty and Trevia's parents owned an apartment complex, and basically everyone who moved up here from Hollister eventually lived there. So it was like this big Hollister complex we called the Lot. And Steve Dodsworth, so Garrett helped me put this together. Garrett went to school with Steve Dodsworth's brother at Humboldt. Steve lived at the Lot with a bunch of soccer girls, I think, right? So Garrett comes down one winter, 92, brings Steve's brother. This is Garrett's recollection, so, okay. So anyways, Jason meets Steve. One day, Sean invites them to watch football at Sean's house. And Sean remembers Jason walking into the house with his USC hat and his long hair. And, so he nailed it. It was 92. He's the only person, well, one of the only people that I know who says, oh yeah, I know the moment I met Jason. So yeah, the long hair and the whole thing. So one summer, Jason comes to Hollister, and he works with PJ painting John Ament's family's funeral home. I think everyone in Hollister had that job at one point, too. Funeral homes constantly getting painted. Got to make it look nice, right? So he lives there for a while. I think he lived at all of our houses off and on there for a while. I think you came down and got his Bronco that he left at my house at one point. I think you did. Yeah, because my dad was like, can I have that now? Is it staying forever? But just to show how many people in here are from Hollister? That's your Hollister contingent right there. And that's just the people that could actually make it. That's not the 100 or so other ones that reached out to me and expressed their condolences. But it's, that's Jason. Like, he just did that. So, the trips he had planned were, that I know, with people from Hollister. Let's see, he was going to visit Mike Astoya, who's here up in Idaho. He was going to go visit Mike Parks out in Montana. He was going to go to Cabo with Sean for his birthday. Had plans to go see Kevin, who lives in Cabo right now, who came up. And then somebody posts on Facebook, and this person is well known in Hollister. His name is Gerardo Gallo. He's about, I don't know. His height changes, but, short little guy. Runs around Hollister. He's like the unofficial mayor of Hollister. So if you know Gerardo, if you go to Hollister and just ask for Gerardo, you'll probably find him within like 10 minutes because somebody knows where he is. But of course, Jason and Gerardo had plans to go watch a World Cup match. So yeah, Gerardo couldn't be here, but he reached out. And I'm like, of course you and Gerardo were going to go to a World Cup match. But yeah, so the reason I bring that all up is just when I talked with Janine and Megan, they both said, he loved his Hollister people. And to all of you, to Tom and Pam and Aaron and Megan and Janine, and especially Lauren, he never stopped talking about you. Was never spoke poorly about, I know how worried you were about him. I was always aware of that. And I would always tell him, Jason, don't worry about that. Like, just go see your family. Like, don't, life's too short to worry about the problems. Just go see your family. And he would. And he always felt better afterwards, and he would call me. But the one thing that he left me with that was unmistakable was that he loved where Lauren and Jason were at the time. He loved that progress that they made. So he loved you immensely, and never forget that. And if you need anything, you can call anybody in this room, I'm sure. You can always come to Hollister. And Gerardo will take care of it for you.
So my name is Chris Grimm, for those of you that don't know me. My wife and I, Lonnie, who's in the room, had the pleasure of meeting Jason when we were here going to school at Chico State. So we met Jason in the bars here in Chico State. Probably no surprise to a lot of you. This was pre-cell phone days, so you couldn't just call somebody up and find out where they're at or text where they're at. But we knew if we could, my wife and I knew if we hopped around to a couple spots, we were guaranteed to find Jason. My wife and I then moved back to San Diego, which is where I'm from, and we're fortunate to get a phone call from Jason. He just got his first job and told us he was coming down to San Diego as well. So, needless to say, we were pretty stoked to have him. The three of us made a pretty good team in our 20s. It was a pretty good time in Pacific Beach down in San Diego at that time. But the one thing I thought I would briefly touch on, and sorry, Janine, but was his pursuit of Janine at that time. He met her at work and loved her day one. Wouldn't stop talking about her. But the biggest problem was that she was seeing somebody at the time. So he had his work cut out for him, but he absolutely was not going to give up. He had to somehow figure out a way to date Janine. And kind of the funny thing is, Lonnie, myself, and Jason, we'd literally sit down and strategize all the time on how he was gonna get that first date. And yes, and it did work, thankfully. Because next thing you know, I was the best man in their wedding. Thank you very much. He was in mine, and kind of the rest is history. And thankfully, we have Lauren with us as well, because of it. So that was a pretty funny time with Jason. I think we kind of lost touch a little bit in our 30s. Life gets in the way. We have work, kids, whatever. But there's obviously some common themes here in terms of Jason's ability to check in with everybody. He constantly checked in with us. Not something I'm good at, so thankfully Jason was. It was very important to my wife. She was going through a pretty serious health issue, and he would call her and text her all the time. And to your point, Tom, he'd tell her he loved her. He was always thinking about her, and missed her, and that meant a lot to Lonnie. So he was definitely probably the best at doing that. Later in life, those phone calls maybe became more of him telling us or wanting to tell us how great of a week or how crazy of a weekend he had. But he still generally asked us and wanted to know how we were doing all the time. He had obviously a great way of making me feel like I was his favorite. I thought I was his favorite, until I saw a post on Facebook from a mutual friend, Jamie Peterson, that said, Jason made everybody feel like a best friend. And I'll have to admit, for a hot second there, I was kind of bummed that it wasn't me. But again, it's just kind of a testament of what Jason was all about. And then, I'd say, lastly, I don't know if Santa Cone's here in the room at all, but I saw another post from him that's basically said one of Jason's superpowers was his ability to genuinely make people, or genuinely connect with people, which he was obviously very good at. I just thought I'd add to the superpower list, and just say, maybe his second superpower was his ability to make everybody feel like they were his best friend. And so that was kind of my message about Jason. So thank you.
How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Needed the shelter of someone's arms. There you were. Needed someone to understand my ups and downs. There you were. With sweet love and devotion, briefly touches my emotion. I wanna stop and thank you, baby. Just wanna stop. Thank you, Jay. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Close my eyes at night, wondering where would it be without you in my life. And everything I did was such a bore. Everywhere I've been, I seems I've been there before. You brightened up for me all of my days. Love so sweet in so many ways. I want to stop and thank you, baby. Just want to stop. Thank you, Jay. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. You were better to me than I was to myself. For me, there is you, and there ain't nobody else. I want to stop. Thank you, baby. Just want to stop. Thank you, Jay. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Close my eyes at night, wondering where would I be without you in my life. And everything I did was such a bore. Everywhere I've been, seems I've been there before. But you brightened up for me all of my days. Love so sweet in so many ways. I want to stop and thank you, baby. Just want to stop. Thank you, Jay. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is, yeah.
How sweet it is, yeah.
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Another one of Jason's best friends is going to come up here, Terry Nix.
Hello. So, in I guess Wolfpack terms, I'm from the San Diego Wolfpack. Um, Jason and I met back in college. I'd moved up here from San Diego and really didn't know a lot of people. And I remember just thinking how different Northern and Southern California were, just two different places. And Jason was one of the first people that I met outside of the dorms. I remember we had an auditing class together, and our professor, Professor Nissan, said we needed to break into teams for a project. So I immediately look around the room and I spot this long-haired guy, and immediately I figured our team was formed. And Jason immediately says, "We're gonna get that girl over there because she's really smart, and I got a buddy that can film this for us." And I was like, wow, just thinking to myself, I just hit the jackpot with this guy. He's got it all figured out, good to go. So during my time in Chico, Jason introduced me to both his town and his friends. And I remember just thinking to myself, wow, this guy knows so many people. He was like Mr. Chico. On campus, off campus, it didn't matter. He knew everybody, and it was just amazing. San Diego was my Chico, and shortly after college, I found out Jason was moving down to San Diego, which was a new experience for him, but something he loved to share with his family and friends. And like he had introduced his town and his friends to me, I was now able to do the same for him. And whether it be the people, the beach, the concerts, the Padre games, the Charger games, the horse races, he immediately embraced San Diego. And I remember we used to go to a lot of Charger games back when they were relevant in San Diego. And we had some friends that had season tickets, and their husbands, neither of their husbands wanted to go. One was a Green Bay Packer fan, and the other was a USC Trojan fan, so they would rather stay at home than go to the Charger games. So me and Jason got first dibs on what games we wanted to go to. So we're like, we have a pretty good setup here. But it got even better than that. One of the ladies lived next to Jason, and the other lived next to me. They would pick us up, take us to the games, tailgate, and always get us home safely. And there was always a common theme with Jason that if he liked something, he'd love to share it with others. And next thing you know, he's got friends coming down from Northern California, tailgating with us at the Charger games. And it was just a lot of fun at that time. Jason was a really good friend. He loved meeting new people and introducing those people to his family and friends. One of our favorite pastimes in San Diego was going to the Del Mar races. And if anybody knows about the Del Mar horse races, beautiful place, just great place to go. And we'd usually go, in the summertime, Fridays and Saturdays, and always had a meeting place. And everybody knew where to find each other. Everybody would show up at different times. But we always knew where to meet up. And again, something that Jason loved to do and loved to share with his family and friends. And next thing you know, his friends are coming down and meeting up with us, and they knew where to meet. So everybody just, knew how to connect and knew where to meet up. And it was a lot of fun down there. And it's kind of funny, Jason would always take this double-decker bus from the train station to the track. And I mean, I don't think the ride was more than 5 minutes, but the guy would always have a story or somebody he met, just always. And I remember he comes in with this older guy one time, and he's like, this guy just got me in the side door. I think he's kind of a big deal. And next thing you know, we're standing in the middle of the paddock, which if nobody knows, it's kind of where the horses walk around before they race, and it's predominantly owners and trainers in there. I just remember looking at Jason like, what just happened? How are we here? But, it was just something about the way that he could connect with just about anybody. It was really amazing. Jason had so much love for his family. He constantly talked about his family, and especially you, Lauren. He loved you so much. He always talked about you, and he loved spending time with you, and I loved hearing all the stories about how you guys spent great time together. Jason was such a loving, caring person who I always knew would be there for me. Could always count on the guy. Like I said, pick up the phone and he would always be there for you. He had a way of connecting with people and creating new friendships. He loved being around people and bringing people together. For me, he brought Northern California, Southern California closer together. I'll miss you, Niels.
And that was Jason. He was the hub, connecting people all the time. And no matter where you went, you'd hear Neely, and like here's somebody else Jason knows. So at this point, I want to bring up the other Neely, who probably goes about life and gets that yell all the time. And it's often said that this is Jason's twin sister, but Megan's going to come up and say a few words about her brother.
I don't know how you guys didn't have water up here. I might have to pause. Okay, Jason was 3 years older than me, and you always look up to your big brother. I always admired and was so fond. Like most siblings, though, he might not have had that same feeling for me when I was little. I was way too annoying and would not give him space. But I was really lucky because as time went on, we really built a beautiful relationship together. I think maturity was part of it, but we really shared so much in common. We loved going to listen to music, going to live concerts, wine tasting, any thematic event where we could just dress up, or he would grow some crazy beard or whatever, dancing, all of those things. My senior year of high school, he actually took my friends and I to Oakland to see Pink Floyd because that was the only way mom and dad would let me go. But it was really cool because that was the pivotal moment in our relationship. I wasn't this annoying little sister anymore, but we were really seeing how connected we were. And so over the following years, we continued to go see live music everywhere. Music was our jam. By the time he reached college, by the time I got into college, he had moved down south, and he was always inviting my roommates and I to come and stay with him. He would always entertain us. He made sure not one person could hit on us. So rude. But he made sure we had a great time. It wasn't fair, though. Many nights we had to leave early. But one memory that really sticks out is when my roommate Courtney and I went on one of our many trips to stay with Jay. But it was different this time. He was always the big brother of us. But on this particular trip, he couldn't stop talking about this coworker and this friend, Janine. And not like normal Jason. He was like, couldn't stop talking about her. And Courtney and I were going, what's going on here? This is not Jason. We hadn't seen that. So eventually he asked Courtney and I to go and have lunch with Janine. And so that day we quickly agreed, and then we giggled. We were like, oh my gosh, this is our turn. We got to be the protective ones. We're going to interview her. We're going to see if we approve and what's going on with him. So, but that day when we met for lunch, they totally huddled together when they looked at the menu and picked a lunch to share. And I just, by the end of it, we just knew he'd found his love, and it was Janine. We were just so happy. So, but as the years went on, our relationship continued to grow stronger. He truly became one of my best friends. He took my friends under his wing, and then he built his own relationships with them. But at the same time, he was always inviting me to be with his friends. And so eventually we kind of overlapped. It was always hanging with the Neelys, or some called us the Wonder Twins. Wonder Twins activate, here they go. Some of the favorite memories that come to mind, as Dad mentioned earlier, when Jay and I decided to start the Neely Barrel Tasting Extravaganza in 2002, which lasted 17 years. We spent a lot of time every year planning for what that was going to be, how we all dressed up, and then everybody would dress up and take over the wineries, and they either loved us or hated us, but it was beautiful. We had our annual Tweed rides, followed by Christmas preview, Oktoberfest at Sierra Nevada. He'd take me to USC football games, holiday bowls. We would travel with family to Tahoe. But a really memorable trip is when a bunch of my girlfriends were turning 40. And so we thought, oh, we're going to Scottsdale spring training. And he was going with Terry and the buddies. So we decided that night, and we said, come over, we're having a huge party, so come and join us. And that's when Jason and I thought we should have a Neely breakdancing contest. And this is how a lot of my girlfriends met him. I'd like to say that I won the contest, but Jason happened to rip his jeans doing a dance move. And so I proceeded to cut the one pant leg off. And so he had to leave with one full pant leg and one short leg to go home. But we signed it, and we went to the Giants game, and this was our rally towel. So I guess he probably won because he did the risky move, and I didn't. I just was doing backspins and other things. But in all honesty, it wasn't always the parties and events. He was there for me through so many rough times. He would invite me to come stay with him when I was struggling. He would fly up to come visit me, and he was even my date to a wedding. He was always offering to be by my side, and he was always calling to check on me. Early this last fall, I called him one night late because I was having a breakdown. He had been so worried about me because with my job, I'd been so stressed and really lost myself. I wasn't doing well. And that night, he picked up the phone. He talked me through my tears, and he convinced me it was time. I needed to leave my job. And I did. I took his advice. He let me know that everything would be okay and somehow work out, but that life is too short, and I needed to be happy. So I took his advice, and shortly after transitioned into a job where I'm able to live a balanced lifestyle, which has not been for so long. I haven't had that. But as soon as I made that transition, he just told me how happy he was because I was back to being the old Maggie that he had missed so much. So that's the kind of big brother and friend he was to me, and for that I'm really lucky. On his last visit to Chico, especially because I had a new job, I was grateful. I got to be with him all the time. We spent our mornings, we spent so much time. He was so happy. He was in the greatest place. He was so ecstatic about seeing all the people along his trip, you know. You got to see everybody. You got to take Lauren to go look at the college. And that just like meant the world to him. So we spent our mornings. We'd go on walks downtown. We'd grab coffee. We talked. We met up with all the Chico peeps because there were so many to keep track of. And then we'd visit with family. He filled me on everybody was doing. He told me who I needed to keep in my thoughts. He told me who I needed to reach out and check on. But he also really let me know how happy and proud he was of me for making the change. While my heart is heavy with his loss, I know that he would want the best for all of us. If there's one thing I know, Jay would want all of us to take on his positive traits and keep them alive. He was one whose door was always open. He loved fiercely. He was forgiving. He made everybody feel like they were his best friend. He also had the gift, as we've all said, of calling and keeping tabs on every person, which I just don't even know how I did that. But most importantly, he always remembered to tell people how much he loved them before he left their side or got off the phone. Overall, Jay was an exceptional human being and a legend in my eyes. Jay will forever be in my heart. I'm going to do my best to be more like him and to keep his spirit alive, and I ask that you all do the same.
He loved you two so much, Janine and Lauren Neely.
Oh man, it's a tough day, you guys. I think everybody probably knows who I am by now. I'm Janine, and I'm actually the lucky one that got to be with Jason for many, many wonderful years. And this is our daughter, Lauren. Really just his pride and joy. And I first just want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate it so much, and I know the Neely family appreciates you guys all for coming out and just honoring Jason. While it's really hard, it's also comforting to share his memories and to listen to how much he meant to everyone here. So thank you. And I know the theme has been connecting and loving, and I'm going to keep that going because that really is who Jason embodied, that those spirits. And I know you guys all think that, he said, I thought I was his best friend. And he had room for everyone in his heart. You are all his best friends. I mean, really. He's really amazing. And I know you might think it's strange or interesting that I'm up here speaking at his celebration. But I think that goes and speaks to the kind of person that Jason was. He was so supportive. And the theme is the same. So loving, caring, open-minded, accepting, forgiving. And we just loved each other so much through everything. I'm just so proud that I could be part of his life for so long. And while I don't know everyone here, I feel like I do, because he really did talk about everyone and share the stories that were going on in your life. I think Tom said that Jason and I spoke every day, sometimes a couple times a day. And I would get updates on whatever anyone was doing, and the good, the bad, whatever. He cared so much, So I really feel like I know all of you, and I want to thank you all because you were important to Jason, and he felt the love from you guys, and you supported him. And so, thank you for being part of his life. And I do remember the day I met him, Brian, as you said, you asked. March 23rd, 1998, I know the exact day. He walked into my office at work, and that day just changed the course of my life forever. I remember a young, happy, laughing, joking 24-year-old with spiky hair and cool clothes. He always had the best clothes. He had just moved to San Diego and started, the company I was working at. I had a USC poster in my office, and when he walked in, he went, "Oh, I love USC." I thought he was hitting on me. That'll come later. He wasn't. He was actually just connecting with me, and it was honest, and it was really. We built a beautiful friendship, and really it was really cute. He was a lot of fun. But the gift of connection is really what he had, and being able to connect people from all walks of life, and he stayed connected. I think you guys have seen that just by the showing here, as evident by all the people from all stages of his life, from childhood to college and at San Diego and his work. It's really amazing. So it's quite a skill, I have to say. And one of the qualities that really drew me to Jason, and again, a lot of people have been saying about it, he was always laughing, had such a beautiful smile. He was incredibly intelligent and very witty, always had a good joke. And he had the most amazing memory, which could be sort of frustrating. He remembered everything and every person he ever met, I swear. He'd call me and go, "Oh, do you remember so-and-so who used to live down the street back in 2000? Well, I saw him at Home Depot." And I'm like, "No, I don't remember that person." Like, "Okay, Jason, cool. Did you guys talk?" And now they're having lunch and, whatever. That was him, though. He remembered everybody. And another really special quality of Jason is just how much he loves his family. I think he called his mom and dad almost every day, which is so special. He just cared so deeply for his family. But that was actually another quality. I remember him telling me that he would call his mom, and I thought, oh yeah, that's a person that I want to be with. Somebody who calls his mom and loves his mom so much. It's genuine, it really is. I know other people have said it, but that was who he was. And he really loved Lauren, as others have said. He was always so worried about her. They loved to go shopping. And I don't know if many of you know about this, but he had a really extensive shoe collection. So they would often go shopping for shoes, and Lauren would say, "I bought one pair and Dad bought 2 or 3. We got the biggest kick out of it. He had shoes for everything. A USC game, for the Charger game, the races. It was pretty cute. Very, very cute. But we enjoyed so many things together: biking, walking our dogs along the lagoon, taking road trips to Discovery Bay, to Chico up here, to Lake Tahoe. And so many of you guys were just part of those trips. And Lauren and Jason really enjoyed music together, I think. As she's gotten older, they've kind of bonded through that. So that was really neat. And there's just so many happy memories that they've shared together, teaching her about USC football, or taking her to daddy-daughter dances, family dinners, and just so many fun holidays that we've spent together. They're in my heart now. And one of the most special things about Jason is that he was a really generous person. And I'm not speaking about monetarily, although he was that too. I'm just talking about his time and his heart. And I think that that's the connection that he had, and the love, and saying, I love you to everybody. And he really, really, really meant it. Gosh, he's just always been there for Lauren and I. I knew that if I needed something, he was there. He never left us, and I knew he cared and he worried so much about us. And that's a big loss to have that gone. But he really supported us, and for that I'm so truly grateful. He was really always there to help a friend in need. Even the week before he passed, he was helping move a friend. Oh, they needed my truck, so I went and helped them move, and then we had a barbecue. And that was him, just always helping and taking care of his friends. And what I think about Jason and what he really enjoyed doing, a few things stand out. I think music. We know he had such a love of music, especially live music. I think he went to every music festival in California. Probably a lot of you guys have been with him on those music festivals. He loved his road trips to visit friends and family, and riding his e-bike on the rail trail in Cardiff. I'm sure many of you seen the posts on Facebook of the beautiful sunsets in Cardiff, and the horse races at Del Mar. He was kind of a official guy there. He even knew the bartenders and all the people that worked there. And I'm not kidding. I can't remember her name. Was it Flo or something? I don't know. He always talked about, I saw, so-and-so. Just connected with people. And I would say that Chico and Cardiff down south were truly his happy places. And a big part of that is because of the people that are in those places. And that includes all of you. This was really a happy place for him. And I feel the love, and I appreciate you guys all have really enveloped Lauren and I as well to be part of your family here in Chico. It's a really special community. So thank you. Something else about Jason that no one else has talked about is that he loves dogs, and dogs loved Jason. I think he's named several friends' dogs. He just really had a connection with dogs, and he loves Lauren's dog, Callie. And I think having our dogs, Kaiser and Chico, were really, obviously Chico, he named one of our dogs Chico, were an important part of his life. And Kaiser made such an impact that he got a wolf tattoo in the honor of Kaiser on his shoulder. So if any of you ever saw that tattoo, it was in honor of our dog, Kaiser, who was kind of a hellraiser, but real sweet. And something else you might not know about Jason is that he was really handy and could build anything. He spent a lot of time working on various projects. He could fix his bike, he built cabinets, he laid wood floors with Tom. So he's really, really handy. In fact, he was at Home Depot purchasing things for a built-in wall unit we were building when I went into labor with Lauren. So he was quite handy, and I spent a lot of time doing that. But I'd like to leave you just with a few final thoughts. There's a famous Maya Angelou quote that seems really appropriate. She said that I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think Jason made people feel like he really cared about them, and he really did. He always showed up for his friends, never judged, and he truly cared. And one of the things that I'll always remember about Jason is that every time we talked, he would always say to me, tell Lauren that I love her, every time. So to honor Jason, please tell your loved ones that you love them every chance you get. I am so eternally grateful for having Jason in my life. His passing has certainly left a huge hole in my heart and my soul that can't be filled. But I think he lives on in the spirit of this place and our family and friends. And again, truly thank you for coming out today. And it shows how much he meant to everyone. So thank you, everyone.
Hi, I'm Jason's best friend, and and I've known Jason for quite a while, and we've got a lot of same traits, and it's hard to be the last one because, or easy, I guess, because I don't have, everybody's already said everything that needs to be said. I know there is a lot more stories and a lot of great things about Jason, so this makes it a little easy for me, and hopefully it's a good way to end this service. I was with Jason when he got the guitar. When we were at Hana, we were watching that, and he's on his phone the whole time, making sure that he didn't get outbid. And you're right, it was a little high, but I wasn't too worried about him. And so if you guys seen the video, it's two little kids, me and Jason, jumping up and down. We won it, we got it, we got it. And then so after we were done, I'm like, all right, who gets to play it? And the first person he says, well, my dad. And I'm like, well, do I get to play it? And he's all, you don't even play guitar. I'm like, I know my one song. I know one song. Let me play it. He's all, yeah, Grayson, I'll let you play the one song. And unfortunately, by the time I left, he hadn't gotten the guitar yet. And he's not here to hear me play his guitar. But I'm excited to be able to play his guitar. And again, it is a sing-along. I'm not a guitar player. I'm not a singer. I'm up here going to try my best. And please, drown me out in my singing because I need it. Thank you.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze. Country road, take me home to the place where I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road. All my memories gather round her, miner's ladies, stranger to blue water, dark and dusty, painted on the sky, a misty taste of moonshine, teardrop from my eye, country road, take me home to the place where I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road. I hear her voice in the morning as she calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. When driving down that road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country road.
Because I always wondered, like all of you, where did this guy get this ability to be such a good friend? And the way he would just square up with you and look you in the eye, and we were all his best friends. We really were. It was amazing. Like you said, he would recognize people everywhere, and he would remember everybody, and he would teach us how to be that friend. And I think that's why we all feel like best friends, because that was his superpower. He was able to do that. And Tom, you talked about Jason not going to church anymore. Man, he was at church all the time. I'm sorry. He spread so much love in the world and teaching us how to be friends and family. So you talked about family. He talked about you guys all the time. He was amazing. And he toiled over when things weren't going perfect. I need to call them. I need to do this. I need to do that. And Lauren, we started a book club. There was 2 of us in it. And we were reading a book on how to raise a teenage daughter. Because neither of us want to make mistakes, and it is so important. And it was, man, he cared about you guys so much. It was really amazing to be part of that. It goes without saying what a great friend he is. And you talked about forgiveness. Man, he never had a malicious bone in his body. He was so empathetic and so caring, and always there. And I know that he reached out to people at the perfect time. Sometimes not at the perfect time. My last phone call that I got from Jason, I was loading luggage, and this picture pops up when he calls me, and it's him at the silent disco, and I'll show it to you back there. It always made me so happy, but I told my daughter, "Oh, tell Uncle Jason I'll call him back." And I really regret not answering that phone call. But I know he had Janine with him. So where do we go from here? Well, let's start by telling each other we love them more often, and checking in with our loved ones, and being that friend that Jason was. It's not just phone calls, man. That guy would drive all over to see people and make time. He might have a little bit more vacation than some of us, but he put the effort in, and I want us all to take that away from today. Go to the Del Mar racetrack. Go to the wine tours. Go to the music festivals, and call people and tell them how much they mean to you. We only have one life. Let's make the most of it. A thought that I had when we all met in Cardiff is we all binge watch Netflix, and we all have unlimited minutes on our phones. That was the time that Jason would spend calling people and telling them he loved them. I always wondered if the template was set when he commuted on the train. He had that time, but he's been doing it his whole life. He's been checking in with people, and he's been that good friend. So you're right, it leaves a huge hole in our heart, but we can also carry him in our heart and reach out. I've started to go out and do more. I've started to call people on their birthday. Instead of just Facebook, hey, happy birthday, I have their phone number. I'm going to call and I'm going to check in with them. So it's great to see everyone. We have one more musical surprise. Jason's favorite band, a lot of our favorite band, has brought us through so many times, the Mother Hips. So Megan was able to arrange having some guys come and play some special songs in honor of Jason, and it's just so touching that it's able to happen. So let's make it happen. Thank you all for coming, and let's celebrate Jason.
In these later days, we're making a living taking from each other all the things for which we have no further use. See the people there on Friday at the barter fair say, why pay? Could I trade you this fine portrait for those shoes? And I know that I don't know you well, but holding your hand I can tell that if I ever lost you I'd be crazed. And the sunny field is darkened by the shadows I am harking by. Could you hold me tightly through these later days? Later days, later days, later days, later. These commercials have me thinking what I drive and what I'm drinking are in essence just the things that make me free. We're not moving on the freeway, and there's got to be a new way to get my things from point A to point B. And the sunny field is darkened by the shadows I am harking by. Could you hold me tightly through these later days? Later days, later days, later days, later. Later days, later days. Thank you. I seen the world through blue tinted glasses. My mustache is making my lips sore, and I've seen all my nightmares before. And I've talked my way out of some trouble. I walk nose first into a little bit more. And where's my stunt double? The rubble is barricading my door. And each night begins a new day. Where did I hear that line before? And I've seen all my nightmares before. My eyelashes are heavy and my hand is unsteady. I guess I'll lie down on the floor. And I've seen all my nightmares before. Thank you very much.